Today's episode of In Love with the Process is brought to you by our friends over at Fujifilm and our friends over at Puget Systems. If you are in the market to buy a brand new computer, like if you need something bigger and beefier, are you trying to just do the stuff that you used to do on your older system and then the most recent software upgrade seemed to render your hardware useless? Yes, it does happen like that. It is that sinister. That's the reality of it, man. It's the way that these big tech companies work. Before you go right back into bed with that same company and get indebted on a giant machine, know that there are options. Check out PugetSystems.com. Build yourself a PC. These guys build amazing computers, and I'll talk about it during the ad reads. Also, supporting us, like I said, our friends over at Fujifilm. Very excited about their new camera, the Eterna that's coming out in the marketplace. I'm so excited about how focused they are with color when it comes to digital cameras. They're kind of at the front of this, really creating really great cameras that are focused on color profiles. Cool stuff, man. We'll talk about that more in the ad reads as well. All right, let's get to the show. So I called up my good buddy, David Kruta, a few months ago. For those of you who don't know who David is, he has been the cinematographer on all of my biggest films. He was a cinematographer on 12KM. He was a cinematographer on Who's There. Him and I have worked together on multiple commercials, music videos, all sorts of different projects. And Kruta is the guy behind Cinematography Salon. For those of you who don't know what Cinematography Salon is, it's kind of the place that all cinematographers go to. It's where all the younger cinematographers go to. He is now getting recognized by, like the ASC and larger groups. And it just started as a place. I think it started really as some forums or blogs on Facebook, I think is how he started it. And it was a place to go if you were a young shooter, young camera person, young gaffer that was trying to get into the business and you were looking for advice. And he's been doing it for years now. He does live events, and he also does a podcast. And I called him up and I said, hey, man, I love you anyways. We love Cinematography Salon and we love all the folks there. And there's a lot of crossover here, dude. So we should do a team up episode. We should do an episode together. And that's what you're about to dive into. Welcome. You are listening to In Love with the Process. I am your host, Mike Pecci. This is my show. I have been doing it now for over 6 years. So I guess I'm good at it. Yeah, man. I've been here for a while, man. And the show started, for those that are new to us, and there's a lot of newcomers coming over right now. Whether or not they're coming this way because of trying to see my film 12KM, or there's a bunch of people that are coming over here from Cinematography Salon. I started the show a while ago as a director, as a filmmaker in this business, because I really wanted to shed a real view on how this business actually works, not that Instagram filter shit, a real view. And who knew that it would become such an important podcast for so many people through COVID, through the strikes, and now as we brace ourselves for the tidal wave that is artificial intelligence. So what I try to do on this show is I do my research. I get people on that know more than I do about all this stuff, and I try to get past the clickbait, titling, and fear bait bullshit into the reality of what's actually happening, whether or not you should be concerned about your jobs, what you should be focused on as we push into a whole new chapter for humanity. Let's be real about it. Whole new chapter for humanity. I had this conversation the other day. We were talking about, I don't have a kid, but we were talking about what it would be like to have a kid right now and thinking about schooling right now, right? Like, it just seems like the entire traditional path, the traditional curriculum that is in schools is going to be rendered useless really quickly. Like, if AI is going to be doing a better job as an accountant, what do you do that for? If AI is going to be doing a better job as a lawyer and legal stuff, what do you got to do that for? You know? So what are the paths out there for this stuff? And there's a big fear wave that AI is coming for our work and our jobs as filmmakers. It's not there yet. Don't believe it at this point. I've been playing with a lot of it. And there's a lot of great tools out there for filmmakers that are artificially intelligenced. Is that a way to say it? It is now. Yeah, man. Like, great tools out there for grain management, grain removal, really good tools for sound, amazing tools for sound. And even the generative stuff is pretty fascinating. I've been using a lot of that stuff on some of my recent projects. So there are great tools out there for those folks. And sure, the fear is that those tools will be available for the scumbags that are out there that don't want to pay people, they haven't cared since the beginning of this industry. They really haven't cared about the well-being of their team and their crews. And to arm them with this kind of ammunition, to give them the opportunity to potentially cut you completely out of the picture, that keeps a lot of people awake at night. I understand it. I totally do. It's not there yet, so don't go crazy yet. So on today's episode, it's essentially an episode of Cinematography Salon. And if you like it, I highly suggest you go check out his show. It's a great show. You go to cinematographysalon.com. The podcast stuff is up there. He's actually got some cute pictures of me. Looks like he posted some pictures from set that I don't have that he has, or maybe he has some old ones that I don't have. Looking good. I was still chunky then too. You know, I was beating myself up the other day, but I'm like, yeah, I've always had that little pouch. Look at that. Look at that cute young boy. I think this is the set of, go to Cinematography Salon right now. You can see what I'm looking at. This is me on the set of Who's There with Shay and Gene. It's a great image. What else does he get up on here? Oh, yeah. There's a trailer for Come Home up here. For those of you who haven't seen that yet, you can find that here. He actually has a hot link up here that I sent him to watch 12KM. It's in the small print. But if you haven't seen 12KM yet, you don't want to wait around for my DMs, you might want to head over to Cinematography Salon. You might find a link for it there. You might. And there's some great behind-the-scenes set stuff. So let me just read the description of his episode, which I might just paste on mine. Director Mike Pecci joins host David Kruta, cinematographer David Kruta, to dissect the chaos of post-COVID Hollywood, the false promises of AI disruption, and the suffocating gatekeeping of the studio system. Pecci lays bare the existential challenges of trying to create authentic work in an industry gripped by fear, algorithmic, there it is, control, and vanishing opportunities. In a world where pitching feels like shouting into the void, Pecci finds power in simply continuing to create, and the filmmakers who will survive are the ones who know how to make something out of nothing, and to do that with heart. For me, for him, AI is not the enemy. Mediocrity is. Ooh, it's cute. Wonder if that was written by AI. I'm just giving you shit. Mine are. Awesome. I'm excited. Before we get into it, and look, the difference between his episode and mine is I'm going to have cool music and I'm going to have all the cool stuff in it that we do on our show. Okay. But go listen to his show. He's got great cinematographers on. And like I said, for those of you who are coming from Cinematography Salon over here because you liked my episode, go to inlovewiththeprocess.com. You can listen to all my episodes because they're curated by subject material. So you can go there. I'm going right now. That's why I'm buying for time. Go to inlovewiththeprocess.com, click on ILWP podcast and then cinematographers, and you will see all of the cinematography episodes that I have. And I look for cinematographers in a different way than most other podcasts do. Yes, I do have relationships with PR people. Usually around award season, they send me people that they want me to interview on the show. But then I know a lot of folks. So I reach out directly and get some great fucking cinematographers on the show. And it's all there. And you'll learn pretty quickly that my interview style is a lot different than some of the other shows. So we typically, well, sometimes because I love lighting and I get real nerdy about lighting, but most of the time we get into like what it was like to survive a production, what it was like to survive the long wait to get your first job. Do you need representation? Do you not need representation? Like, we get into it. I mean, episode 164 with Eric Steelberg is a great one. You should go listen to that. I've also had Dan Louston on the show, Oscar nominated cinematographer, and then of course Greg Fraser. And I pride our show into being or as being like a different conversation in this business. So hope you guys dig into it. Thank you, everybody, for following me on Instagram at Mike Pecci and for following the podcast on Instagram. That's In Love with the Process Pod. That's the place to go to write to me, to sign up for the Film Fan Club, which, by the way, the first email went out. So all of you that signed up to C12KM, you all got my first email. So the fan club email went out like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So if you didn't get it, check your junk mail filter. But it went out. Not only did you have the opportunity to rent Come Home, because it's now available for rental for the listeners of the show only right now, but it also gave you my more recent top 3 horror film list from modern horror films. I get this question all the time because I'm asking thousands and thousands of people to send me their top 3 horror movies of all time to get an access to C12KM. And everybody goes, what are your top 3? What are your top 3? So I figured that would be a really cool thing to do in the film club, is to give you my top 3 lists. In some months, it may be top 3, special effects sequences. It may be top 3 grindhouse horror movies. It may be top 3 action films. And what I'm trying to do is give you a curated list of movies that I enjoy that you're not going to find quickly on your algorithmic feed. And sure, it may be a new movie that I just saw in the theater, but I feel like I still have to fucking rally most of you because a lot of you are too fucking lazy to go to the movie theater. So check your email. It went out. If you're in the film club, you got it. If you're not in the film club yet, just write to me on Instagram. Send me a DM and say, what do I got to do to be a part of the club? And we'll get you. All right. Without further delay, let's kick some music. Maybe we'll do a little Mitch Murder here. Play some music. We're going to go right into the world of Cinematography Salon. And you're going to hear me and my good buddy, David Kruta, hopefully inspiring each other and inspiring you on the brand new episode of In Love with the Process, Cinematography Salon, In Love with the Process.
So it's been a crazy half decade, about 5 years now since we hit COVID, and it's been nothing but up and down for the film industry. We had COVID stop everything. We had back to work. We had the boom right after COVID. Then we had strikes. Cinematographers around the world stood in solidarity with writers and directors and writers and directors. And there was probably one other guild, and we stood in solidarity with them. Did not work for a little while. And after that, we thought about what it would be like when we came back to work. And suddenly we find that work has gone abroad, work is being AI-ified, work is not here. So I wanted to dive into this topic a little bit with one of my close friends and collaborators. He is a director that I would call a master of perseverance and and someone that, despite everything that has gone on the last half decade or more, somehow always manages to find a positive spin on things, but is also down on the ground and knows what is kind of going on in Hollywood, and hoping to hear a little bit of a perspective that's not just from a cinematographer. So I would like to welcome my good friend and collaborator, Mike Pecci, to the show.
Hey, buddy.
And hey, so yeah, I hope we can get into a lot of this stuff. I am your host, David Kruta, and you're listening to the Cinematography Salon podcast. So
I like that you're hosting. I like that you're hosting. It's nice. Usually you're just behind the camera. You don't like to be in front of the camera,
Many of us DPs don't like to be in front of the camera.
Hi, buddy. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you as well.
And I appreciate the intro. Like, I think one thing you left out is that you have to be kind of insane and you have to like misery in order to last as long as it's taking to last as an independent director these days.
Well, I'd say my first question for you is, when's a good time to give up?
I don't think there is. I mean, look, I've been on my show, I've been talking about this a lot over the past month. And there's a new mantra that I have over the past month. I'm just kind of sick and tired of this fear campaign that is just being pushed out there, where everybody's Hollywood's dead. There are no productions. There's no business. There's no nothing. Dude, I just went to the movies on Tuesday, like mid-afternoon, and the entire lobby was packed with people. Like, it was packed with people, and people were streaming out of movie theaters. And what did I see? I saw 28 Years Later, which is great, by the way.
Oh, I got to see that.
It's great, dude. There's a lot of really fun technical stuff that you'll like in it. So the movie business is not dead. And I think that there's a big push. There was a big promotional campaign push by these big software companies that are making AI and putting AI out there. And they created a ginormous fear campaign that all of us who are unfortunately waiting for work are on our phones, and we're sitting here going, "Oh shit, is this how? Look how they rendered that fisherman. Is this the end of my job?" And I was in New York shooting with Gina when we saw the Google release, and I had the same thought, where it was like, man, we're done. Like, what does this mean? How do I get work? And most of my clients, and most of our clients that we have that keep us afloat, which generally are commercial clients or commercial clients, they're kind of scummy anyways. And they're always looking for ways to cut corners, and they're always looking for ways to cut costs. And so if a technology like this exists, how do we have a chance in hell of just keeping our rates at the minimum that they are right now? And so I had that initial response when I saw that thing. And then I went, well, let me look into it. And so then as soon as I got home, I started to play with it. And as a storyteller and as a director, it's incredibly frustrating. It's not at the level that they say it's at. I don't care what people say. It is still a glorified Google search. And the technology is getting better and better and better. And it's a cool tool. As a filmmaker, it's a great tool. But I don't think it's going to take over our business and our jobs. And I think that what's going to happen and what's happening right now is everything's becoming very boutique. And I think the move for a lot of independent filmmakers is to build an audience and understand their audience and just work real hard for a smaller group of people instead of trying to work hard for billions of people. And honestly, I think that's going to make better content because you're not going to have to water it down so that both the guy that works at the gas station and, the woke lady that lives next door likes your film. Like, I think you can actually just be very specific with an audience and have more fun with it. So
you actually touched on like a few different things that I wanted to get into, but maybe start kind of higher level. Like, obviously the world's changed significantly since, 2020. How did, your approach to the business, and how do you think the business has changed from, say, pre-COVID to now, and going forward, maybe lay out some predictions and some specific sort of action points of how, let's say you're a director, obviously our audience is mostly DPs, but hearing it from a director's perspective that's working with writers and producers, give us a lay of the land there.
Well, I think pre-COVID, and I would say even pre-2015, the business was a bit different. Like when I got into this, Kruta and I shot a movie called 12 Kilometers. And with your help, I met Will. And with Will's help, we ended up getting into some pretty big producers' offices. And then I got repped by UTA. And then I got repped by a management company who I've since fired. And the game plan with that management company, they were the company that found David Sandberg. So at that time, their whole game plan was, let me find someone that makes a great short, and then we can adapt that short to make a feature film. We'll attach them to a production company, and that was James Wan's company for David Sandberg. And so when they saw 12KM, they went, oh shit, we have another lottery ticket that just randomly showed up from Boston. So we'll put them through the same paces, which was, hey, we're going to introduce you to as many of these production companies as we can, push real hard to get them to sign on. And then the move is to get a director, an established director, to kind of godfather the project. So when you go see the trailer for the movie, it's like from James Wan. But then when you actually look at the credits, there's some dude that directed it that isn't James Wan. They're just sort of godfathering it through with his name. And so when you and I got into this with 12KM, that was the plan. The plan was, I come out, we'll push him real hard, we'll get him to do that. And we had some interesting interest, but there was a shift that was happening. And it was like right around the time where Hollywood was starting to shift, right around the time where, the ranks were getting pulled out and canceled. There was a lot of stuff that was happening. A lot of people were afraid. And so when they went out with our movie, we ended up getting interest from Ridley Scott. So he loved our film and Scott Free loved our film. And they said, all right, let's try to package this thing. Let's put this thing out. And they went through the process of just doing what they had done like a few years earlier. And the business was like, nah, like it had changed that quick, where it was like, this isn't what we're looking for right now. Or this guy doesn't have enough clout to direct something at this level. I mean, you name whatever reason for them to hit the no button. It was just no, straight across the board. And then my team was like, hey, you know what I mean? Like they were just like, there was a business plan that we pulled you in for, and that was the first change that I saw. It was like sort of being late to that party. And then ever since then, the party has been changing at such a rapid speed that you're 1 week it's something and then you try to get in on that thing. And then the next week it's something and you try to get in on that thing. And the doors just seem to be getting tighter and tighter and tighter right now because everybody is freaking out. And I don't want to sound too negative about it, but I feel like the people that have a chance in hell getting through that door are people that have personal relationships and connections, or, that old, Nepo blood that's running through them. So like there's something that is, enabling them to get to that point, which makes it really hard for us because we don't have that, and I've been out here now for 6 years, and it's taken me this long, and thank God for my podcast. It's been taking me this long to start to make some of these connections and get help and get the hands that pull me into spaces where I still feel like I'm kind of relevant. I still have the opportunity to, hang out with the Rocks producers and have them be like, dude, we'll put you in for this thing. You know what I mean? It's as opposed to being where I was prior to, what did I say, 2018, 2015, or whatever that was.
Yeah.
If I was trying to get into it the same way now, it's no fucking chance in hell that I would be able to.
So Seth Rogen, I saw him say recently about the making of Superbad, where he was saying that Superbad would not be made today the way that it was. I mean, that's not an old film. That's what, like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
It's not like some ancient film. But the industry has changed so much that he felt the need to say that Superbad back then was basically, it was a script. Sony was like, we love the script, we'll buy it. And then they went and made it. And he said, today, you would need to approach a studio with everything cast, with everybody attached, with, some financing in play. Like you'd need everything kind of packaged up because of this like ultra low risk environment. But on the other hand, we don't have to make this all about AI and risk and whatever. But
sure,
recently I've been chatting with a few people, and we've talked about fatigue from things like Marvel, right? Like these big blockbuster movies that just people don't even seem to care. Like I can't remember the last time I had a conversation with someone where they were like, "Oh, I saw this Marvel movie and this happened and we went back and forth."
Yeah.
I grew up as a big fan of Spider-Man. I love the early Marvel movies, like when Spider-Man first got turned into movies, then Marvel hit, and we started getting all these fun stories that, all the comic books I read as a kid are coming to life.
Yeah.
A few years back, like Eternals, I made it 20 minutes into Eternals and just turned it off. And like, I don't think I've really watched much Marvel since then. It's just exhausting. So now you're kind of seeing hints of what I think might be the next decade, where we're looking at potentially more risky projects, but at a lower level. So, I look at some of the work that we've done and being able to do stuff in a basement, do practical effects, and maybe even use a little bit of AI to help our productivity and plug the gaps. But, risky stories that are being made for reasonable budget levels that are, a studio executive can stomach.
Well, dude, I mean,
what do you think of that going forward?
Dude, it's the only reason why we're still in the room and we're running for these things. Because I think at the end of the day, what gets movies made, what's happening now is just an exaggerated version of what's happened before. This happened like back in the 60s. This happened back in the 70s. As soon as technology comes out, the entire industry starts to freak out. And the industry is like, it's all going to die. It's digital. It's all going to die. And this is all going to die. But the truth of the matter is people still show up for good stories. People show up for stuff that they haven't seen before. People show up for stuff that makes them feel something. And so the ace in the sleeve that we have as filmmakers is that you can dump us into a space with $30, a camera and a light bulb, and someone that's going to be in front of that camera. And we can make something that's pretty cool. And we can make something that when you watch it, not only is it like, wow, that was clever, or maybe there was some great dialogue. It's also like, wow, that's cinema. Like we have the skills and the knowledge to make cinema. And the only way you can gain those skills is time. Watching an ass load of movies and understanding the language of cinema, and then, understanding how to use the language of cinema, and then understanding practice and technique and all those things. So I think that is incredibly valuable when I go into a space right now and I talk to folks, and our 2 movies right now that are out there are alive because of this, because I can go into a space and they look at it and they go, man, this costs like $15 million. And I go, no, doesn't, we could probably do this for like, you up it, you go, this is a $5 million movie. Or you go into a space and people are like, wow, we don't have 5 million. We only do it for $1 million. I go, okay, I can scale it. I can do $1 million for this thing. I know that I can do all of it. And I think that is what is the superpower as we sort of push forward with all this AI tech and all this stuff. You're going to have a bunch of nerds, just like with CG. You're going to have a bunch of nerds that don't know how to fucking tell stories, that are just going to be prompting, and they're going to try to prompt, and you're going to have like, the most uninspired sort of imagery that runs through it. But when I see this tech and I use this tech, I sit there and I go, whoa, this is something that I can physically screw with. I could take it out of the box, use it the wrong way, and futz with it. And then suddenly I've got like 5 inserts that no one else could have ever shot. Or suddenly I have greater look into this character because I was able to extend a sequence. So I think I'm answering the question because I'm off on a tangent here, but I think that at the end of the day, we don't have to be scared about this stuff. And with the change of the business, the one thing that doesn't change is that these folks don't know how to make fucking movies. Like the crazy thing is that when you hang out with these people that are like executives, or even, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but even people that have been, you would see their prior work and go, you spent like almost 2-3 years with an amazing filmmaker. Maybe you've garnished something and now you're a producer of a company. They don't know how to make a fucking movie. Like if they were put into the same space that we were with the same $40 and a camera and a light bulb, they wouldn't even know how to plug in the light bulb. And that's most of Hollywood. These people just don't know how to make it. So if we show up and we do what we do. And I'm not just talking about us. I'm talking about anybody that is at home with the ability to pick up their little camera and make a story, and they understand how to plug in lights, and they understand how to do all this stuff. You're going to be a magician to these to these bean counters. So we're not going anywhere, I don't think. And even if it comes down to most of our job being prompting, which put a bullet in my face, but most of our job being prompting,
Same.
we still have superpowers. I've been talking to all these guys that are running like at the forefront of AI and like setting up AI studios. And there's a bunch of these new places that'll end up like Pixar, where it's an AI studio that's making AI films. And they're all like, dude, get into it, because you know more about storytelling and filmmaking, and your prompting skills, like your prompting skills as a cinematographer, are so much more advanced than someone else's prompting skills, because all it's doing is referencing the metadata from cameras that you know. So it makes like a lot of cinematographers that are freaking out because they're like, well, we're not going to be shooting. It's like, no, you will be shooting. And then you will also be working on a movie that has AI in it. And it would behoove you to know how to AI your skill set, to know how to AI your visual style. So that way, maybe you could also be the cinematographer for the AI stuff. You know what I mean? So
staying educated, obviously. We just had a conversation about it recently, and yeah, I've got a chat group. I was in the ASC Vision mentorship program recently. We have a chat group with the cohort, and there's a lot of conversation about this stuff when we talk about staying up on things, and that yes, the good taste and good storytelling is what's going to come through,
but skill too.
Skill, of course. I mean, all this stuff, like, it still needs guidance. I will say personally, if my job turns to being in front of a computer all the time, then I would rather just go fucking frame houses or something like that. Like, I'm just out. I didn't get into this business to sit in front of a computer.
But yeah, you don't need to. I think that because you and I know each other, and I'm working real fucking hard and slugging through the swamp that is this business to try to get one of our movies up and running. But dude, the realization at this point, the only reason why we don't have one of our movies up and running is that we don't already have a movie. And so it's sort of at this point where these morons that are just like, is this a lottery ticket? I don't know. Like they need to physically see something else that they like. They need to see a feature film that they like. So the unfortunate part, and you mentioned this, you can't just walk like I would have been able to back in 2015. I can't just walk into a production company and go, here's kind of the idea that I want. Here's a short film. And they go, wow, your short film's really cool. We'd like to see what you would do with this. Let's take a risk. We'll give him like a, $3 to $5 million horror movie, and here's some bullshit idea about lights to turn on and off, and let's see what you can do with this. That doesn't exist anymore. No. Now, I just got off a call last week for one of our projects, and I've put together, Will has written a phenomenal script. Prior to this, we got rejected 100 times, and they said, look, we can't do this because you're not going to get talent attached to this. Well, through my podcast, I got talent attached to it. I got a big name talent attached to it. And suddenly it's like, cool. Now I go back and I say to them, I have this actor who is completely committed to this. Can we go back out again? And they go, yeah, okay. And so then they send it out, and then it goes out, and then they go, well, we love the actor, we love the script, but the monster in the movie, like, we need it to be flushed out a little bit more. Meanwhile, I've already done a character breakdown on the monster. I've already done, controversial. I've done AI renderings of what I think the creature is going to look like, and sketches, and that whole ordeal. And that's all in a really great director's treatment that looks like a fucking comic book at this point. And so then you send that in, and they go, this was the conversation. They go, well, why do you have it shrouded all the time? And I go, well, because we're trying to get this movie in under $5 million. So if I put an actor in prosthetics, he's going to have a lot of trouble running in prosthetics because prosthetics don't bend the right way. And so if we shroud him in some stuff, then I can literally put a stunt guy in a shroud for inserts and cutaways and have them run across the fucking room. And they go, well, we kind of want to see the creature though, because we're just seeing a lot of these shrouded creatures in movies. I go, yeah, because you're not paying enough money to the filmmaker to physically not have him in a shroud, or not have him in shadow, or not have him not on screen for like 3 Hot Seconds. And they go, yeah, but if we can do that, if you can figure it out, then we might be able to get you some more money. And I go, cool. Well, can we get some upfront cash so I can go after a concept artist or creature designer? Because I know all the best from the podcast, and I could just go after them and have them help me design something that physically doesn't exist yet. And they go, well, you got to do all the work though. And I go, so you mean I got to go prompt this thing? And they're like, yeah, you got to go prompt this thing. And I'm like, cool. Well, it's going to look like something else that existed because that's how fucking prompting works. So you're stuck in this sort of death circle of, how do you get this thing made? As opposed to you and I run off and we make some sub $500,000 movie that is banging and cool and crazy, and it's us with light bulbs in the basement, and it's nuts and it's over the top. Then they sit there and they go, wow, this is crazy. Hey, yeah, we don't give a fuck what the monster looks like. You know what I mean? It's just this stupid game that we're in. And every week, whether it's me or Will, like one of us is calling the other guy and the other guy's got a shotgun in his mouth. And we're just sort of sitting there going, this is it. This is the end. This is the end. And the other person's like, don't pull the trigger. It's fine. You're going to make it. Every week.
It's crazy that these stories go back all the way to Alien. Like you heard the same thing about Alien 1979, right? Like the rubber suit didn't look right, and Ridley Scott's like, oh shit, we got to figure this out,
Bring in the haze.
Bring in the haze, bring in the silhouettes. Didn't they put a dog in the suit at one point just to see if they could get to scurry around?
Yes. I mean, but dude, that's filmmaking, and that's the fun in that. And the solving of that is what makes the stuff fucking cool. And at the end of the day, we get credit for a lot of stuff that was us fixing a problem, was us trying to figure out how to handle this thing that we didn't have enough money for, didn't have enough time to shoot. And so then you end up changing things. And the beauty of having people with you when you're confronted with that is that I'm getting your life experiences and your work experiences. I'm getting Larry Sampson's life experiences and work experiences. I'm getting all this stuff around me so that I can sit in that space and go, guys, I had a plan. Apparently it sucks because it's not happening the right way. What do we do? And when we all huddle together and we start talking, suddenly you don't have to see the shark. Suddenly you're having a conversation with John Williams, and John Williams is like, don't worry, I'll carry it. And suddenly that becomes the scariest fucking thing. And everybody goes, wow, what a genius idea. And meanwhile, Spielberg's like, yeah, I had this stupid mechanical shark that wouldn't stay in the water, And that's what makes it great. You look, especially in horror, you look at Sam Raimi, you look at all these, Sam Raimi is like behind the camera with a stick whacking his best friend in the face. Like that makes those movies so much fun. And that's what makes making movies fun. And so to address your point, I don't want to be stuck behind a computer doing this thing. I think what it takes is, as a cinematographer or as a technician, you have to be friends with like 4 or 5 directors that are embracing this new thing, which is a niche audience. And then those directors are just doing fun little niche projects. And then you all get together. And the benefit of AI, in theory, is that you won't need as big of a team. So then for me, it's like, all right, let's get 15 people. All right, 15, 20 people. And if I have 15, 20 people, even if I go to my fans of the podcast and I say to the almost 200,000 fans of the show, hey, give me $10 a pop so that we can make this new movie, then if I've only got 20 people plus whatever actors that I'm going to put in front of that thing, that's okay. It's a paycheck for everybody involved. And then we get to fuck around Rodriguez style and make something that's fun and cool. And that's the struggle right now. The struggle is we're sort of at the death rattle of how movies were previously financed and independent films were financed, because foreign sales is changing. All this stuff is fucking changing right now, where you can round up $2 million or $1 million based upon an actor's relevance or who that actor is. It's crazy town. Now you go to foreign sales agents and you're like, hey, I've got this actor that was in some of the best movies I knew growing up. And they're like, yeah, but we don't give a shit. The younger generation doesn't give a shit about them. They care more about, us on this fucking platform than they do with a lot of new actors, unless you're, Timothy Chalamet, at that point, they're just like, okay, we'll give you 200,000 for this guy. And you're like, huh? this guy like 5 years ago was worth $3 million, in the foreign sales market. And I'm like, yeah, 200 grand. And whatever. I'm ranting.
Yeah. No, it's all good. That's actually a good kind of segue. I truly think the one unanswered question going forward is how does distribution work properly going forward? Because I think distribution, people are capable of making movies. There's a lot of talented people. I mean, I look at you and, I like to call you like the world's most overqualified first-time filmmaker.
Yes, that's a great title. I got to make a t-shirt.
Like you have so much acting or so much directing experience under your belt. You've made some really amazing films. It's been great collaborating with you. And yet it's like been impossible to get a feature off the ground. And you always get this feedback like, oh, he hasn't done a feature. It's like, okay, but that's just everything he's done with like 20 extra minutes. Like it's, it's not that big of a stretch, but we are entering this kind of new paradigm of how things are potentially working. To me, its distribution hasn't been figured out, because if someone was able to, like, you've built up this brand, you've built up a podcast, you've built up a following, you've built up a portfolio of work that people care about and they want to see more. But where does it come out, and how do you navigate this? Because that to me is where the status quo still has full control over it. And I think that's where the source of a lot of friction is right now, especially between young, independent filmmakers that aren't in the studio system, that aren't working already, that don't have a huge resume, but have great stories to tell. How can you get something financed? How can you get it out there for people to see? And the answer just can't be YouTube and like Instagram Reels and TikTok.
No, it's not. It's not, dude. It's not. Yeah. I mean, like, I had this conversation last week on one of my episodes that'll be dropping soon. I had Barry Katz on the show, who's a famous talent agent for comedians. So he was the talent agent for Louis C.K., for Bill Burr, like all these guys. And I had him on the show, and he was talking about how he got Tracy Morgan on Saturday Night Live, because he was his guy. And Tracy, they were going to cut Tracy from the audition process because they can only have a certain amount of people. And Barry went out of his way to like fucking bug Saturday Night Live. Like, he called them and faxed them, and every 12 minutes would call and fax. And they were like, stop calling. And they finally said to him, like, yeah, fine, we'll do it. But if he doesn't get booked, lose our number. And so I said to him, I go, man, that's a manager that you want. That's a person that you want that's out there to push you over the edge. And he goes, look, man, it's not about a manager that can do that, especially in the current climate. He goes, you're living in a time right now that didn't exist prior to this. And you have a lot of power as a creator. You have a lot of power as a creator because you can reach a pretty big audience. He said a lot of creators just don't spend the time and energy putting themselves out, marketing and promoting and doing that. He's like, it's essential to do that. It's essential to do that. And he saw our work and saw our stuff. And he said to me offline, he said, look, man, I think your work is amazing. And I think the work's really great. And he said, I think the only reason why you don't have big movies being made is that enough people don't know you yet. And he's like, if you look at it like an old lottery or like a lottery ball setup, if you're working real hard as a creator and you're just doing that one ball to create that one ball, which is I'm making good movies or I'm just going to focus on the craft, and that one ball ends up in there, what are the chances? Out of 1,000 different balls in there, 1 out of 1,000. But if you can figure out how to put 100 balls in that thing, then your chances are even better. And so what I took away from that was that it's about putting out your work and being smart about how you put out your work out to the most people that you possibly can. And if you can't get it out to a lot of people, figuring out a way to make it as exclusive as you possibly can. Make it into something that is an event, make it into something that people feel like they earned and they own. And that really helps put you in a better spot, right? Because now you're not just taking your content and you're dumping it. What a fucking waste of time, dude. I put up ads for the new podcast that we did this week on Instagram, and Instagram's like, we'll show it to like 1,000 people. I'm like, I got 175,000 people that went out of their way to go click I want to see everything this guy posts. Click. And you decide through your algorithm that you're going to show it to 1,000 people this morning. Like, talk about gatekeeping. It's the ultimate realm of gatekeeping. As soon as these companies realized that they can make money off the fact that you need to reach your audience, they've built algorithms, they've done all this stuff to keep you from reaching your audience because they want to make money off your ass. So like if you're doing it, they want to take. That's the whole thing. And so if you're playing by the rules and you're like, hey man, I read this thing online, this is how you promote my show, and I'm going to make these clips, I'm going to put these clips out there, you're fucked because you're just not going to, you're not going to crack that algorithm. And the same thing with a movie. I'm talking to a bunch of other horror directors that I met when we did the festival circuit like last year with Come Home. And I met a bunch of really great short film, horror film guys. And they're all like, how are you releasing your movie? And I've been releasing my movie exclusively the same way I released 12KM, but I've been watching these guys release their movie through different places like Alter, different curated YouTube channels. And the benefit of that, if you get into a curated YouTube channel, is that that channel comes with a few million of its own audience that are just subscribed to that channel to watch specific horror stuff. So now I'm like, well, maybe I'll give them like a short run of my movie for like 5 months and put it on that channel, because then if I get, 2,500 people that come off that channel onto my YouTube channel or come on and listen to the podcast, then that's valuable to me. Now I'm building an audience. All right, it's time to take a hot second and let's talk about some sponsors. And I know if you guys are listening to this episode, you guys are nerds. You guys love cinematography. You might be a cinematographer. You might just be a movie fan that really appreciates great looking movies and images. And there's a lot of them out there right now. Like the world of cinematography has really like flourished and blossomed, and it's getting its due right now, right? I think cinematographers in TV, at least, are almost harder than the directors are, which is crazy. Well, if you're watching this episode, which you can do on YouTube, this episode will be up on YouTube, and you'll see both me and David Kruta talking to each other. If you're watching it, I shot this whole bit with my Fujifilm, my what is that? I always screw this up because I always fuck their numbers up. Fujifilm hates me for this. It's the HX2S. That's it, I think. Yeah, that's what it is. It's such a dickhead. Yeah, it's my XH2S. You know what it is? I say this every time. It's the X and the H that screw me up. Great camera. I shot, like I said, this whole bit for YouTube, this whole podcast episode, because, Kruta was like, yeah, I'm going to shoot it. And I'm like, oh, shit, it's Cinematography Salon. So set the whole thing up, put a sweet lens on there. I think I used their 35 millimeter for this, the Fujifilm 35 millimeter for this episode. I think that's the one I had on there. I post pictures of it on my Instagram, so you can go check it out. But this was the camera I used, man. And look at the gorgeous color stuff. I used one of their color profiles. And it's just no color grading, no nothing. That's right out of camera, man. It's really cool stuff. If you guys are looking for a great, versatile camera to do everything with, like if you're going to go shoot some location scouting images, you just need a still camera for that. If you're going to do a short film, this is great for short film stuff. Shoots really great 4K footage, which is awesome. And then it's just as like the autofocus on it, because I was using the autofocus when I did the podcast recording, and it's pretty amazing. And you could do up to 240 minutes of continuous recording with this camera. It features a new heat dissipating structure, which is great for recording podcasts. I got distracted there because it looks like they also have an optional cooling fan accessory. That's interesting. So if you're doing stuff in high temperatures, you can get that. Pretty cool. In addition to F-Log, it also has F-Log 2, which records an expanded dynamic range of 14 plus stops, which is pretty cool. I'm getting nerdy about this because you guys are all cinematographers or cinematographer wannabes, you know what I mean? Raw output via HDMI, which is pretty rad. The great in-body image stabilization, which is super cool. Go right now to fujifilm-x.com. The link is in the description of today's episode. And go check out in the X series, the XH2S. It's the camera that I use. And I'm just sort of scrolling down and looking at all the really cool little graphic things they have here. 5.76 million dot high resolution electronic viewfinder is pretty rad. Weather resistant body, of course. Really cool. CF Express cards is what it takes. What is this? Enhanced video functions. Video operations have been made easier thanks to the standalone video recording button, yada, yada, yada. It's always interesting to like go deep on the websites and these things because I got the camera. I've been using it for quite some time, but there are just so many options on these things that I just sit here and I go, oh, I didn't know that. It's pretty cool. Fujifilm, great cameras, great people. They've been a supporter of our show. I think they also do Cinematography Salon as well. So they want to be with the cool kids. Also supporting the show, our friends over at Blackmagic Design. I just finished color grading the new film that I cannot wait for all of you to see. I actually recorded an episode with one of the stars of the film that I haven't been able to release yet. And yes, it's a cool movie. Yes, we shoot with a big-time actor, big-time celebrity. And it's an experimental piece that both me and Gina did together. And we just color graded the whole thing in Resolve. And it's been a while since I've used Resolve. And I sat down and was like, all right, I gotta shake the rust off. I mean, we're at DaVinci Resolve 20 at this point. So what do they got going on? And I'm telling you, man, this program blows my mind because I've been color grading stuff for years, man. I got into this business as an early digital cinematographer. And I've been color grading and everything from like Sony Vegas back in the day all the way up through. And Resolve wows me the same way that Photoshop wows me when it comes to photography. So like the tracking software, amazing. I've been using the beautification stuff, really great to get rid of blemishes, to get rid of all that kind of stuff, especially for a movie like the one we just did, which is like very high fashion, and all that stuff's very necessary. And then, you know, just the ability to add film grain that looks realistic, the ability, I've been using like their, what was it called? Film damage filter, which is really great if you've got like high resolution graphics that you're putting into it and you want those graphics to feel more like they belong on film. So cool shit. DaVinci Resolve, our boys over at Blackmagic Design. Thank you for supporting the show. Finally, I'm using my Resolve and color grading my stuff on my Puget system. I'm pumped. I just bought plane tickets right before I sat down to record this. I'm headed up to Seattle to help those guys. I'm going to shoot a new piece with them at School of Motion to promote some of their new computers. And let me be selfish here. I'm pumped to go hang out and have beers with them because they're my favorite guys to go out and drink, have beers, build computers, get nerdy about computers. So if you want to be part of the fucking club, go right now over to PugetSystems.com. And I'll say it again. The links are in the description of today's episode. So check it out. Let's get back to the show. All right, so let's get back to the show. So, check it out. Let's get back to the show. Finally, I'm using my Resolve and color grading my stuff on my Puget system. I'm pumped. I just bought plane tickets right before I sat down to record this. I'm going to shoot a new piece with them at School of Motion to promote some of their new computers. And
So I heard this interesting idea, and let me know what you think of this. The idea was basically taking Apple's early iTunes distribution method, which was $1 a song. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So it was like, you want to buy whatever album, you can buy the whole album for $15 because there's 15 songs on it, or you can just buy your 3 favorite songs.
Yeah.
And someone was saying that do the same thing, but for movies, which, if you're a nobody, and I don't mean nobody as in like you don't matter, I mean nobody as in you don't have a big following of people, is maybe not the most attractive thing to you. But if you're, say, someone like, let's say you're The Rock, right? And you've got 10 billion followers or something like that. You get paid however many $1 million per movie. If you were to participate in a movie where the distribution model is $1 a view or $5 a view or something, and then you use your brand to bring viewers in, and you get to keep 80% of that or 70% of that instead of getting the 5% or 10% or 2% or whatever it is that, modern
you get off of
systems. Suddenly someone like The Rock can go from making, I don't know, $30-40 million per movie to 50, 60, 100 million and have ownership and all that stuff. So these distribution questions to me are fascinating, but they hinge on someone like yourself going out and building an audience through whatever measures. So I'm actually kind of curious, one, your general thoughts on that, but two, just to bring it back to our audience, where do DPs fit in on brand building and connection building and into this whole puzzle?
Yeah. Okay. 2 questions on that. Let me see if I can tackle, because they're two different. I have 2 different opinions on that.
Sure, please.
Look, The Rock, you use a rock as a reference. I talk about this with podcasts, right? Trying to get a podcast audience. And people will point out like Joe Rogan, or they'll point out Bill Burr, or they'll point out Tom Segura, they'll point out all these folks, and they'll go, look how successful they are because of their podcasts. And I have to point out and go, they were that successful because they were on Comedy Central, they were on HBO, and they were on all these traditional outlets that spent an assload of money on billboards on the side of buses, on spots, and they were a place that helped build out the audience for these folks. So they walk into this world with an audience. So The Rock rocking into whatever sort of distribution, he can do whatever the hell he wants. Whatever distribution service he does, everybody goes, oh, it's The Rock. Shit, I'll give him $1, and suddenly he's, making, twice the tequila money. So now with us as small filmmakers, you really don't have an opportunity for that. And what you need as a small filmmaker is the same thing that MTV used to do for bands back in the day before they got bought out by Viacom. Is MTV was the place that people went to watch music videos. And so you'd go, and MTV would play music videos that they curated, that they liked, and everybody that went there went, these are cool. And you kind of need these curated spots. It's like a record store. You need these, especially now that we start getting into boutique stuff and boutique filmmakers. You need these spots for my generation, for your generation, even the millennial generation that they trust. Like back in the day, Pitchfork was like a big resource for people looking for music. You need these spots for filmmakers to get the legs up, because average Joe filmmaker, unless you're like, breeding cute puppies or, wearing like push-up bras, like you're not going to get like a massive audience with just making a good movie, because no one gives a fuck about a good movie. Everybody gives a fuck about a great movie experience. Everybody will go watch a movie because their friend tells them like, you got to go see this movie. Like, I'll tell you how great right now, how great 28 years later is. And you'll go, cool, right? And then I'll go, these are the reasons why. It's a punk rock movie. It feels like the first 28 days later, but it feels so weird for the modern audience right now. And I went expecting a regular zombie movie, and it took me 15 minutes to adjust to this film. And then once I did, it's fucking cool. What I did right there will make anybody that's listening to this podcast think twice and want to go see 28 years later. We need that as creators, because the sheep that are people that just sort of subscribe to a streamer and drool and eat the same crap all the time, they need curators out there to tell them, hey man, this is going to make you feel a stronger rush of dopamine than Transformers 7. You know what I mean? So I like.
So we just got to get 28 years later to sponsor. So we'll be bleeping out the name until they start dropping money for this podcast.
But you know, like it's that thing. So that's how I would answer that portion of the question. And now we're talking about cinematographers, right?
Yeah.
And I went to your cinematographer salon party out here for Cinegear, and it was great. I got to see some cool people. But when I went to that event, it was a bunch of cinematographers standing around going like, hey man, what are you doing? You working, you're not working, you know? And I think that as a guy who is directly in contact with young filmmakers consistently and directly in contact with cinematographers and production designers and folks, I think at the end of the day, the only way to survive is to find your own little camp of really talented. I mean, it's always been this way. It's like the people that go to film school together, the fucking Lucases and the Coppolas and the American Zoetropes and all these different groups. You find a core little group of people. And if you're smart as a cinematographer, you have about hopefully like 10 directors, but maybe 5 directors that are doing some crazy shit. And then you're just in that group. And then that group is just all inclusive, where it's like, hey man, it's not just a bunch of directors in this group. I'm also going to get production designers that I really love in this group. And I'm going to get editors that I really love into this group. I'm going to pull these people in so that these are all the folks that we need. These are the folks that we rely upon. And then on top of it, it isn't just gear people. It's like, hey, I'm also going to open this up to actors, like great young actors that are out there that are looking for an opportunity to get more content so that way they can get a manager. And the only way to get solid content as an actor, and I say this on my show, is you got to be friends with a great director. You got to be friends with a really cutting edge sort of someone that is busting their ass and blowing their rent money and making really great content. And a lot of these young actors are like, where do I find these people? And so I think that I don't know how I can do it, but I wish I could with my show. There has to be some world where you go like, hey, guess what? This is a community of people that are creating film. It isn't a community of just directors. It isn't a community of just cinematographers. This is a community of people that are creating film. And I'm going to open the doors to people that want to make shit. And so like, if you are a cinematographer that's looking for directors, come on in, because I know for a fact there are some great directors out there that are asking me constantly, like, how'd you meet Kruta? Like, how did you guys connect? How did you bond? Like, what was the bonding process of that? And I'm like, I'm sorry. You're just socially awkward. Got it. You know what I mean? So, like, I think that's the only way and you wish that was the case. And I'll wrap up this rant by talking on a larger level of this, which is like, I was talking to my agent, and we may have talked about this. I was talking to my agent when we first moved here to Los Angeles, and one of the movies we were going to make was like ready to rock. Like it was right on the edge. Mm-hmm. And like the production company was like, hey, it's going to happen no matter what. And you go, yeah, okay. And so we're right there. And I had moved out from the East Coast, and my team was on the East Coast, you know? So all the people that I work with were over there, all the people that I can call on a dime and just have them come in and do stuff. And they know the way I communicate. And so I talked to my agent and I said to him like, hey man, this movie's can probably go. So what would be great is if I don't have a production designer around here. So you rep really great production designers. So why don't you just put me in touch with a bunch of these production designers? I'll take them out for beers and we'll hang. It'll be fun. And he goes, why don't you just wait till your movie gets greenlit? I go, what? He goes, just wait for the movie to get greenlit. I go, how does that make any fucking sense? If I hang out with this guy or girl for 5-6 months before I make the movie, we become best friends. The language is on point. And then they're like, dude, we'll do it. And I come back and whatever scumbag place you guys find the money to make this movie goes, we can't afford full rates. I can at least say, well, I've got really talented friends right now that are willing to jump in with us and make this fucking thing happen. How does this make sense to wait? And that's how Hollywood works. That's how this whole system works, where it's like, there's a box, you fill that box, you hang out, you go do this thing. And if you've done it with Cinematography Salon, and I think it can go even further, where you need to create a group or a merging of a group that are people kind of like what film schools did, but without the fucking like $100,000 fucking student loans that you'll never pay back. Like some spot where everybody gets together and goes, hey man, I know how to shoot. What are you shooting this weekend? I'm shooting this bullshit test this weekend. You want to come do it with me? Yeah, let's go do it. And then you go do it. What's his name? I had him on the show. He shot Mank. You know who he is.
Messerschmitt.
He was Fincher's gaffer.
Yep.
And then Fincher one day was like, hey, I'm going to shoot some photos. Hey, you want to come light these photos with me? And they went and they hung out and they worked for that day and they worked together. And then afterwards, Fincher was like, I like the way you light. Boom. You want to shoot this next movie? Bam. And it was from him just saying, yeah, I'll go shoot photos with you, as a gaffer being like, yeah, I'll go light these photos with you. And that's how we get work. That's how, when I ran a production company, the people I would hire were the people that were close to us at that moment that the job came in. And we're all hanging out and having beers, and you get a phone call and go, oh shit, I got to crew up again. What are you doing next week? Oh, okay, cool. Boom, done. Boom, 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 boom. So
it's a great point. Like this is exactly like why it's called Cinematography Salon. You know, it's not a place to get your hair cut. I
was always wondering.
Yeah, no, it's a nod back to, if you haven't been to the about page on cinematographysalon.com, it's a nod back to the salons from the 1700s in France. And basically what they were a group of artists that were not accepted by the mainstream, that had their own creative movement. The Impressionists were one of them, Monet and others. Mm-hmm. And they were basically seen as outsiders, people that didn't have any skill, didn't have any talent. We don't like what you're doing. You can't come into our galleries. You can't come into our museums. We're not going to show your work. So they made salons. And salons were gatherings of artists and other creatives, and they would get together and they would show their work off to each other. And that is the genesis of this entire group, is getting people together. And I've thought about this for a very long time. You mentioned American Zoetrope and some of these other movements. Forget exactly where, but there was that valley like near LA where a lot of like the great rock from like the 60s or 70s, all the different bands all lived in the same valley, so, and I see today that people really are kind of like islands. And I was listening to a thing that Trevor Noah said very recently. And he was saying that the I'm going to paraphrase here, but like the lie of the promise of modern civilization and building up modern civilization and becoming more advanced and getting away from our, tribal roots is that you end up trying to get back to the very beginning, but now you have to pay for everything.
Yes.
Right? So you had your tribe. You shared your cooking duties, and you raised kids together, and you go hunting together. Yeah. And then you build all these cities and this civilization, and now you pay someone to come into your house and take care of your food, or your kids. You pay someone to cook your food for you. You pay someone to do your laundry. Like all this stuff that we've lost as a community. And for me, having these groups of, not just DPs, like I've been in 10,000 rooms where it's exactly what you were saying. It's a bunch of DPs get together in a room. Maybe there's a lens demo, and then you're like, oh, how are you? And the question gets answered with, I've been working or I haven't been working. It's like, I didn't ask whether or not you've been working. I asked how you are.
Yeah.
So like, let's talk about that. Let's be real people, and let's feed off of each other. Let's get production designers and actors and directors and writers in a room, and cooks and gymnasts and whoever else. You never know where inspiration's going to come from.
Yeah, dude.
But having these little groups, and aside from the salon, I have several little chat groups based on different topics.
Yeah.
And there's something that keeps me creatively fed. But I think us being siloed and us being split apart is intentional. I think it's created by those in power because it makes us easier to control.
Yep.
And it makes us easier to manipulate, and it makes us cheaper to hire because we're not colluding on price either. So I say we bring back that stuff.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you. You and I have always been real good about this. This is what I do on my show, and this is what we've always done when we do our productions together and we do barbecues together. When we do stuff like this, it's just about pulling people in because at the end of the day, this job, my job, and your job, because cinematographer just as much, it's a fucking social job. It's a big time extroverted social gig. You have to know how to talk to people. You have to be a psychologist. You have to be a father figure. You have to be a best friend. You have to be a leader, ship captain. You got to do all of this stuff. You have to, with age, you start to find a way to be humble and understand it's okay not to have answers. All that stuff makes really great, not only good work, but like great life experiences. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you're on your deathbed and you're screaming out. And I've been there a couple times, screaming up to the sky, going, fuck. You're thinking less about, you know, what were these things I made? Like, oh, wow, I made that music video. And none of that flows to your head. You're always thinking about like, oh, man, I remember when we got together for my 40th birthday. Or I remember when I got to go hang out with Jarvis and drive the coast 5 times and make a music video. And, you know, his crazy antics off the side, like playing pianos on coastlines and shit. Like weird stuff that is the, you know, it's the recipe for my life. It's the recipe for my work. And so you want to have these events. Like if COVID taught us anything, we're social beings and we got locked into a cage and all of us went insane. Next thing you know, we're all in therapy and we're all like baking bread. We're all doing things to try to find some sort of sanity when all we wanted, all we craved for. And I remember the first day that I got to go hang out with somebody else outside of my house. And it was like this weight was lifted off my chest. This is what we're doing. And both of us are using our specific skills to tell that story to people that don't get to experience it the same way, or maybe haven't got there yet, or maybe they have and they want to relive this thing with you. And so you're using all your skills to try to take an emotion or a feeling or a chemical reaction and make it so that an audience member sitting and looking at a 2-dimensional image can feel it safely, you know, and that's cool, man. That's what this job is. And so having communities, having friends, and this is interesting because spoiler alert for the audience, Kruta sent me some early questions. So I know a bunch of the questions that he potentially was going to ask me. So kind of working them in my brain here. But when you were talking about film festivals, like what is the relevance of film festivals right now? Are they relevant? Will you put a movie in a film festival and suddenly become the next Tarantino? Or is it just a place for a bunch of like influencers to hang out and take pictures of themselves on the red carpet? It's interesting because I just went through the whole film festival circuit, and the thing that I get from good film festivals, because there's a lot of shit film festivals out there, but the thing you can get from good ones and ones that care about filmmakers, ones that put together really good filmmaker parties. FilmQuest was a great one. They would actually put together like these date nights where they would bring all the filmmakers into one space, and it was almost like speed dating, and you'd meet a bunch of other filmmakers, a bunch of other people, and they would force you to sort of engage and mingle. And, you know, the cinematographers that show up to that, you're like, wow, I love your movie. Those are the best places to go. Because it's like, hey, boom, I saw your movie on screen, the best business card I could possibly see. And now I'm hanging out with you and the director at this mingle. And you guys kind of like my movie and I like your movie. Let's go get hammered. And then you go out and you have a bunch of beers. And next thing you know, become pals. And you're just like, hey, man, can I be on your show? And so I think film festivals are valuable for that. If you go to the right ones, they kind of can be like a microcosm of what it is that we're talking about, where there are people that are out there and that are excited to be out there. The thing that's depressing about a lot of film festivals is that you go there and the audience is just filled with the other filmmakers. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, where's the audience here? Like, do your job and fill it with a bunch of real people so that I can show my movie to real people. But what I've got out of it is I've met other directors that I really admire and other directors that I turn to now if I'm doing a cut or if I'm doing something, and I'll go, hey, check this cut out for me. What do you think? Or if I'm just in a shitty spot and I'm really depressed and I'll just call them up, and to be in the same city as them is really nice. I'll just go, what are you doing tonight? And they're like, I don't know, I'm in my underwear. And you go, yeah, me too. You want to just go and grab some beers? Yeah, let's talk about how terrible it is to be in our underwear. And then what happens is you go and you sit in a bar, and then they're like, hey, I had this idea for this thing. What do you think of this idea? And I go, ooh, that's cool. What if you did this? And they go, ooh, yeah, that'd be a cool thing. What if we do that? And I go, yeah, it's a good idea. You should go do that. You know, and then they walk out of that engagement empowered and like excited because, you know, two guys that were previously at home in their underwear were now hanging out drinking beers and talking about an idea, you know?
In your underwear.
In your underwear.
So, I mean, this kind of goes back full circle to the AI prompting thing, where you don't have that collaboration. You don't have that spontaneity that allows for magic to happen. You're just sitting at home alone, putting in, you know, text and hoping stuff comes out. So anyway, we don't need to harp on that, but you know, this really just goes to show how much of the magic comes from the people that are out there creating. So
dude, so much of it does.
I'm also wondering, because this I feel is kind of related, because I question myself sometimes too. You know, I question my involvement in this industry, and I question my career choices and whether or not, you know, what should I do going forward, especially in the face of the last few years, you know. And like I alluded to earlier on, you know, you are someone that has some of the most insane perseverance that I've ever seen, going out and failing 100 times with pitches. And, you know, I was thinking early on, or not early on, like coming into the show, I was going to say something about survive till 25, right? Like that whole statement where everyone's like, all right, we had COVID and we had these strikes and everything's shit and there's no work, but everyone's saying survive till 25, survive till 25.
And then what?
And then 25 hits and fucking LA burns to the ground. You know, like just the sickest joke imaginable. Like January 2025 and LA is just on fire. You know, so I guess what I'm getting at is how do you, in the face of all of these challenges over such a long period of time, how do you maintain that, you know, that sort of energy and need to create? Because for me, I have this part of me that's like, oh my God, I'm going to give up everything. Like it's been slow. It's this, like, I'm just going to move on. And this other part of me that's this burning desire to create.
Yeah.
You know, and I get told like, oh, you can cook, like go work in a restaurant or something. It's like, I don't want to fucking sling dishes. Like I have this deep burning desire to create things, and I just need to get it out. So like, how do you work through that?
I don't know, man. It's an interesting, I'm always asking this, and I was just hanging out with my dad. I hadn't seen him in over a year, and I was hanging out with him, and we were floating in a pool, and we were talking about this. When you talk about 25, yeah, the fucking fires, you know, we were in that boat where it was like, you know, we're ready to come out. You know, you come out of the holidays, you're jazzed. You're like, there's a couple people that are interested in, you know, we always have some sort of meetings coming down the pike, and we're like, yeah, this is going to be great. Like I was talking to Miramax, I was talking to all these people that were very, very excited about doing stuff. And then, you know, the California lit on fire, and I was pretty deep in with like some of these executives, and they were like, we love this idea. We love this stuff. And then, you know, they had, you know, one executive, I won't say his name, but he had his mother's house burned down and his sister's house burned down. And so suddenly he has to be off the grid. So he's off the grid for, you know, 3 months. And then when he finally comes back on the grid after that period of time, everything's changed. And now the interest has changed. And so you're like, fuck. And it was tough. And for me, it was like, okay, first and foremost, when we left, because we're right where the Eaton fires were. So that morning when Gina woke me up and she's like, hey man, I'm kind of scared. The app is telling me that I'm scared. You know, leave it to her not to go actually physically go look out the window.
The app.
But the app is telling me that I'm scared. And so then I woke up and I went outside and the sky was on fire. And so you sort of hit a point where you go, all right, what can we fit in the Subaru? Like what is the most important things in our life that we can take with us, and where do we go and what do we do? And it ends up being this really scary but really cool adventure. Like you end up going on this wild adventure because this is the stuff that we make movies about. You know, like come outside and the sky's on fire. you know? And so you're like, all right, how? And I've always been one of those guys that would, go to a coffee shop and like look for all the exits just in case zombies came in. You know what I mean? Like, so my brain always thinks that way. And so now I get to put that to the test, and I'm judging myself as I'm going through the process of like, all right, I know how to pack the car right. We got to get out of here by a certain amount of time. Like I'm seeing all these different movies that I would write in my head as I sort of go through this. So even though it was scary, subconsciously, I'm also like, it was kind of cool. Like I'm going through the process of surviving this. And that ended up being a lot of really great life building stuff. A lot of, believe it or not, some of it was fun. And I don't want to say that it was fun because a lot of people lost their fucking homes. A lot of people went through some horrible shit. And we were very fortunate that we didn't lose that stuff. But I could be looking at it like it sucked. And that was the reason why I didn't get my fucking movie made, like it was terrible, but for me, it was like, oh, I get to go on this adventure. So let's go on this adventure. How do we sneak pet rats into a casino in Vegas? Like weird shit. And because of that, you come out of the back end of it. I remember we came home, the air finally cleared. It rained twice. And I was like, yeah, man. And we're ready. And we sort of step out of the back end of it. And Will and I are like, let's push, man. We're going to push. We're going to push. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And it was like a Monday. And I'm like, cool. I'm just going to go for a quick bike ride, and you go and you get on the bike and you ride and you turn a corner and you hit a manhole cover and you fucking break your entire arm. And suddenly you're now thrust into horrible pain and recovery and physical therapy. And so that was the beginning of 2025. And I can look at that and go, shit, man, I didn't get to make a movie at that period, but I was never going to make a movie at that period. It was completely out of my control. But in that amount of time, when I am going on this crazy opioid adventure and I'm meeting all these strange people, I'm also sitting on the couch. I remember Will came over, Will Simmons, a friend of both of us, and he writes all my features. And he came over with his girl and they brought me over breakfast, and they were really sweet. They went to the hospital with me and they were really upset. And I'm sitting like on the couch, like high on like whatever opioid that they're feeding me at that point in time. And I'm trying to be social, and I'm in like a tank top and a scar and all this stuff. And I'm just grouchy. And I'm sitting on this couch and Will's like, we got to make something, and he's over there. He's like, we got to make something. We got to do a thing. And we were going to write something else. And we were talking about, this is a tirade that I'm on, but we were talking about writing this other movie, and we were kind of following the rules. Let's do a slasher movie. And then it was like, who the people in the slasher movie? Oh, they got to be a bunch of kids. And then what are the scenes with kids? And there's like, you had a bunch of kids at a bachelor party. And then I fast forward in my brain in my opioid state, and I go, I don't want to be on set at like the bottom of the hour, trying to convince a crew to stick around for an extra 3 hours so I can shoot a bunch of douchebag characters that I don't care about, talking about what it's like to be at a bachelor party, just so that they could be douchey enough so that when they get killed, we all cheer in the audience. It's like, that's not the kind of movie I want to make. And I said to him, like, what if we do something crazy? And so then the two of us, like, all of a sudden, like the lights dim and we lean in and we start talking. I'm like, what if we do a movie with no dialogue? And I just want to do no dialogue because of the response I had to a bunch of douchebag kids that have to talk about like how crappy they are. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So what if we just do a movie with no dialogue? And then the conversation goes like, well, what do we do? And what's this? And oh, it should be that. It should be this. It should be that. It should be this. And suddenly in like 15, 20 minutes, that moment that happened because of my bike accident, because of everything that we were going through, suddenly spawned one of the best ideas that we've had so far for a movie. Suddenly at that point, like all the gears started to turn, and I'm like, whoa, this takes advantage of everything that I really like. And holy shit, we could do this for under $1 million. Holy, and and suddenly that moment that maybe if I wasn't in the fires or if I didn't have that bike accident, 2025, I could have been in line waiting for fucking callbacks for 3 weeks from some studio exec going like, yeah, I don't really understand how the creature was. You know what I mean? And that would have been my life, as opposed to me just sitting on this couch in a state where I got nothing else to do but create. And we come up with something that's really cool. And then this thing that's really cool. I don't want to give anything away, but I'm then pre-selling or pre-pitching to some execs that we know. And they're like, this sounds like the coolest thing in the world. I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? And that's just from that. So 2025, yeah, fuck yeah, it came. Beat the shit out of us, beat the shit out of me, but also got a good idea out of it, you know?
I think if you were listening, hoping for some specific advice, you definitely didn't get it. But
what is it? What do you want specific?
No. This is good. This is great because what I was going to say was that if you were, what I hate about some of these podcasts and some of these shows is, you always get the question like, what's your advice to like a young cinematographer? And it's always the same stuff. It's always like, be curious, be creative, et cetera, et cetera. And this goes to show that it really is that. It's not, there is not a concrete set of steps that you can take that will guarantee career success.
No.
But I do think having that passion and that burning desire to continue creating on your own terms, finding your community, working with other creatives, being inspired by each other. And, this is a great example. I mean, like 12 kilometers, that happened because you use the hardship as a creative device to create something. So taking the negative and turning it into a positive and using those interesting stories to move forward creatively and with your community. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't know if you're trying to wrap me up, but I'm going to keep talking. I am
trying to wrap you up.
at the end of the day, man, like we're telling stories about life. And this is something I have to constantly tell myself because we do get into this hole of like, I beat the shit out of myself emotionally every day. I wake up and I go, what am I doing today? Have I done anything? Have I done the thing that I'm supposed to do? And Gina gets mad at me. I go to bed at night and usually because I shower before I go to bed and you're in that sort of meditative state in the shower stall. And I'm sort of sitting there going like, shit, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And so then when I climb into bed, I'm like, fuck. And like all this stuff is sort of running through my head. And I have to remind myself that our job is to live life, experience life, to experience childbirth, to experience friendships, to experience hardships, to experience death and go through death. That's our job. Our job is to do that. And then when we do that, we have the skills and the ability to understand it, to witness it. If you're smart enough to make note of what you're feeling emotionally and physically as you go through these things, and then that goes into your toolbox. That is the thing that is there. So when you get some random script as a cinematographer from an actor, director, a writer, and it comes in and it's some like, what is this? And you have to physically make this beautiful. Where do you turn? You turn to, this moment that happens in the script. When I read it, I thought about when my kid was born, or I thought about it that moment when I went over the handlebars and I flinched right before I hit, like that thing there. And I can describe to you in detail everything that I saw, everything I felt, how the world felt, because I've trained myself to live life at its fullest. And while I'm living life, I'm also like running a recorder going like, beep, like, whoa. And, get a notepad, get a book, write that shit down, do that, because those are the things that will take you off that depression couch. Those are the things that will take you out of that waiting list and put you out in the front of creating something. Because truth is, most cinematographers that are listening to the show, how many of you own your own gear? You know what I mean? How many of you have friends with teams? How many of you friends with gaffers and grips? Right? You guys all know these people, right? And I think the mistake that a lot of young cinematographers do is they sort of sit around, they wait for work to come to them. And yeah, that's where the paychecks come. You have to wait for that. But in the interim of that, you should be making things. You should be shooting things. You should be doing things. And I said this to I won't rant too much longer. I said this to a younger cinematographer who came to me and he was like, what should I do? He's like, should I go join a team? Should I go join a crew? Should I go be an assistant camera operator and make my way up? And I said, yeah, there's a lot of people that do that, man. You could go join a crew and learn your skills and be a gaffer and then go from being a gaffer to do that. That's a valid way into the whole thing. I said, but if you don't have access to that, what I'm looking for from a cinematographer as a director is I'm looking for a fellow storyteller. I'm looking for somebody who has a grasp on light, but paintings, composition, movement, understands all of this stuff. So in your downtime, when you're feeling like the world isn't bringing you your job on a silver platter, go work on that shit. Go play with that stuff. Go sign up for an art class. Go to oil painting. Go do something that puts you out in the world. I know a lot of cinematographers that like rock climb and they go do adventures and they travel the world and they do photographs about the world. Sure, if you've got the money to do that, but even if you don't, anybody that's under the age of 30, go get a Criterion account and just watch Criterion films. Go through the process of studying Criterion films. Break them down, shot list out how you would have shot that Criterion movie. Like understand what the emotion behind all these things are. So that way, when, Joe Blow, writer, director, I don't know how to work a camera shows up, you're suddenly loaded with all of this ammunition that you learned when you were just supposed to be sitting around your underpants depressed. And you were like, and you went and did this extra work. And what's interesting is that extra work garners excitement within you. So then when you're talking to people, you're excited about something. And then those people who are desperate for their own dopamine rush are latching onto your excitement. And suddenly they're like, whoa, what are you working on? And then suddenly you go from just being someone that's sitting around waiting for the excitement to come to you to someone like you who is building a cinematography salon, someone that is like doing this larger thing, and suddenly everything starts to come at you, not because of your skills, but because of your excitement level.
I think that's a fantastic place to end.
Kurt's like, shut up.
No, I want to end on a positive note like that. That's fantastic. So
there you go, man.
Got to thank you for coming on.
Oh, dude, I can rant here all day just because I miss you. I miss you, man. We're not in the same city and we don't get to hang out and have beers. And just so you know, at home as the audience, this is the kind of stuff that we talk about in person. This is the stuff that we love to get nerdy. The only thing missing is barbecue and meat and everything else. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on, Mike. Miss you too.
Thank you. There it is. Episode in the can, man. I always love talking to Dave. Him and I are like two peas in a pod. We make great work together. He's very inspiring to work with. He is one of my favorite people to have on set. He's a general. He's a creative general. And the work and the hard labor that he's put in to run, maintain Cinematography Salon, to put on these events. He has parties in New York, in Los Angeles, different times of the year. He brings all these folks together. They're great, a lot of fun. I'm honored to be on the show. And I consider myself very lucky to be one of his best buds. So you guys like it? What do you think? Those of you who came over from Cinematography Salon, hi, welcome. What's going on? Did you guys check out inlovewiththeprocess.com? Great episodes up there. A lot of new folks come over and they go, man, you've got so many episodes. Yeah, I've been doing it for over 6 years, man. Where do I start? Well, if you're not a true comic book fan and you have to skip to the good stuff and you don't want to go to episode 1 or issue 1, I get it. You can go to inlovewiththeprocess.com, click on special series, top 40 episodes, and that is a great place to start. I've got my Joe Carnahan episode up there. I've got the epic David James, photographer David James, 2-parter. That one's crazy. Peter Stormare, yes, the guy from Fargo that was feeding Steve Buscemi into a wood chipper. Yeah, have him on the show. Wade Eastwood, the stunt guy or the stunt coordinator from all the Mission Impossible movies. Judith Weston, you don't know who that is yet. Go check her out. She's amazing. Everything, man. I've got the editor from Mandy, Brett Bachman. We talk about Mandy. You guys seen Mandy? I'm sure a lot of you have. We talk about some stuff. You'll learn some things about that movie that you didn't know by the time you're done. So it's the place to go, dude. Lovethprocess.com. All right. I'm not going to drag this out. I got work to do today. Thanks for listening. A lot more episodes on the way. Tuesdays, brand new episodes of In Love with the Process. Thursdays, brand new episodes of Right Place, Right Time with me and Lance Williams. And that's it. Talk to you soon. Stick around. Tell your friends. You know, all that stuff.